Genesis is the brand that keeps catching people off guard. 15 years ago, it did not exist as a name you could actually buy. It was a badge on the boot of a Hyundai and nothing more. Today, it builds a chauffeur-driven flagship that undercuts a Mercedes S-Class by the better part of 30,000 pounds, and it is just committed to going endurance racing against Ferrari, Porsche, and Toyota at Le Mans. That is a staggering distance to travel in a single decade, and most people still have no real idea how the lineup actually stacks up. So let us fix that properly. 7 levels, from the car that gets you through the door all the way up to the Halo project, sitting right at the very top. By the end of this, you will know exactly which Genesis is worth your money, which one is quietly the smartest buy in the entire luxury market right now, and which ones charge you for a badge and a promise you will probably never cash in. Stick with me, because level 6 is where this brand stops being polite and starts throwing punches, and level 7 is something no Korean car company has ever seriously attempted before. One quick thing to understand before we climb the ladder, because it explains everything that follows. Genesis was built by people the German brands used to employ. The design boss came from Bentley and Lamborghini. The chassis engineers came from BMW. The whole look, that crest grille with the diamond pattern, the twin-line headlights and taillights that repeat across every model, was a deliberate decision to make a Genesis instantly recognizable from 100 meters away. This is not a company copying luxury. It is a company that hired the exact people who invented modern luxury and then told them to do it again without the arrogance. Keep that in mind, because it is the thread running through all 7 levels. Level 1. The entry, and honestly the reason any of us are having this conversation at all. The G70. This is the compact sports saloon that put Genesis on the map back in 2018, and it is still the cheapest way to get the badge on your driveway, starting a little over 40,000 pounds. The clever bit is what sits underneath. The base car runs a 2.5-liter turbocharged 4-cylinder making 300 horsepower, but the one you actually want is the 3.3-liter twin-turbo V6 with 365 horsepower, rear-wheel drive as standard, an 8-speed automatic, Brembo brakes, and launch control. 0 to 60 comes up in around 4.5 seconds. That is genuine BMW M340i territory for noticeably less money. Here's what people get wrong about the G7. Oh, they write it off as a badge-engineered Hyundai, and they could not be more mistaken. This car was tuned by chassis engineers who cut their teeth in Munich, and it drives like they meant it. The steering has actual weight and feedback, the rear axle rotates when you ask it to, and the whole thing feels tied down in a way the entry German rivals have quietly given up on. There is even a shooting brake estate version in Europe for people who want the drive with a bigger boot. The common mistake here is buying the 4-cylinder to save a few thousand. Do not. The V6 is the entire point of this car, and it is the purest thing the brand makes. If you want to understand why Genesis matters, you start right here. Level 2, core luxury, and this is where Genesis actually starts making its money. 2 cars define this level: the GV70, the compact luxury SUV, and the GV60, its all-electric cousin. The GV70 is the bestseller in the entire range, and it is easy to see why. It shares its mechanical bones with the G70, so you get that same 2.5-liter Turbo 4 with 300 horsepower, or the 3.5-liter twin-turbo V6 with 375, but wrapped in a body that families actually want to buy. Prices open around 48,000 pounds. The cabin is the real story. Quilted Napa leather, a beautiful 2-spoke wheel, and material quality that makes an equivalent Audi Q5 feel a little ordinary. Then there is the GV60, and this one is a proper technical showpiece. It sits on the same dedicated electric platform as the Hyundai Ioniq 5 and the Kia EV6, which means 800-volt architecture and charging from 10 to 80% in under 20 minutes. The standard car makes 314 horsepower, the dual-motor version 429, and the performance model punches out 483 horsepower for 10 seconds at a time when you press the boost button on the wheel, dropping 0 to 60 to around 4 seconds flat. It also has party tricks nothing else at the price can match. A crystal sphere on the console that rotates to reveal the gear selector when you start it, fingerprint entry, facial recognition so you can leave the key at home, and even a drift mode. This is the level where Genesis ownership makes the most sense for most people. Genuine luxury, real technology, and you are not paying flagship money for it. Level 3. Executive class, the heart of the brand for anyone who wants to be seen arriving. 2 cars, the G80 Saloon and the GV80 SUV. The G80 is the one that told the world Genesis was serious. It is a mid-size executive saloon that goes directly after the BMW 5 Series and the Mercedes E-Class, and it undercuts both by a wide margin while looking, frankly, more expensive than either. The 2.5-liter Turbo 4 gives you 300 horsepower, the 3.5-liter twin-turbo V6 gives you 375, and there is a fully electrified G80 with dual motors for those who want to go quiet. Prices sit in the mid-50s. The GV80 is the SUV that shares all of that and adds a third row of seats and a genuine sense of occasion. The twin-turbo V6 pulls hard. The adaptive suspension actually reads the road ahead with a camera and softens for bumps before you hit them. And the available 21-speaker Bang & Olufsen sound system is one of the best in the class at any price. There is now a GV80 Coupe as well, with a sloping roofline and a sharper attitude for people who think the standard car is a touch too sensible. This is also where the depreciation maths starts working in your favor, because Genesis residuals have climbed hard as buyers finally worked out the reliability underneath is Toyota grade. This is the safest bet in the whole range. Level 4, the flagship, where Genesis stops competing on value and starts competing on pure presence. 1 car, the G9. This is the full-size luxury saloon aimed squarely at the Mercedes S-Class, the BMW 7 Series, and the Audi A8, except it starts around 90,000 pounds instead of 130. Under the bonnet sits a 3.5-liter twin-turbo V6, and here's the trick. It uses a 48-volt electric supercharger to wipe out turbo lag entirely, producing 409 horsepower with the kind of instant, seamless shove you normally only get from a much bigger engine. But nobody buys a G90 to drive it themselves. You buy the long wheelbase version, and you sit in the back. The rear seats recline, heat, cool, and massage. There is an ergo motion function that gently works your posture on a long journey. And a chauffeur mode slides the front passenger seat right forward so you can stretch out like you are in business class. Add rear wheel steering that shrinks the turning circle, a cabin so quiet you can hold a whispered phone call at motorway speed, and doors that close themselves. The whole thing feels like it was engineered by people who studied a Maybach very carefully and then charged 40% less for the result. Is it quite as opulent as the Mercedes? Not entirely. Is it going to need a small mortgage in repair bills at 60,000 miles? Also no. That reliability gap is the entire argument for the G90 Level 5. The electric future, and this is where Genesis is placing its biggest bet. The brand has committed to going fully electric, and the halo of that plan is the GV90, a full-size, 3-row luxury electric SUV built on 800-volt architecture. The headline feature is a set of coach doors, hinged at opposite ends and opening outward with no central pillar, plus front seats that swivel to greet you, so stepping in feels like walking into a lounge rather than climbing into a car. Expect a price north of 100,000 pounds and a genuine attempt to out-luxury a Range Rover and a BMW iX at the same time. Alongside it, you already have the electric versions on sale. The electrified GV70 with 483 horsepower on boost, and the electrified G80. These matter because they prove the point. Genesis did not build a bespoke electric flagship first and learn on the job in front of everyone. It quietly electrified its existing bestsellers, got the software and the charging right, and only then went for the big statement. That is the disciplined, unflashy way this brand does everything. This level is not about being the cheapest or the fastest. It is about Genesis showing it can do the future without losing the plot. Level 6, Magma. This is where the polite luxury brand grows teeth. Magma is Genesis's brand new high-performance subdivision, and it is the direct answer to Mercedes AMG, BMW M, and Audi RS. You will know a Magma car instantly because it wears a shade of burnt orange the company developed specifically for the line, a color inspired by molten rock, and it is genuinely one of the best paint finishes on any modern car. The first one to reach production is the GV60 Magma. Wider tracks, bigger brakes, a retuned electric powertrain, a proper aerodynamic body kit, and a chassis sharpened for the track rather than the school run. Behind it sit the G80 Magma and the GV80 Coupe Magma, both shown as concepts heading for production, each one lower, wider, and angrier than the car it is based on. What makes Magma interesting is that Genesis is not just bolting on a bigger number. It is building bespoke chassis hardware, running these cars hard at the Nürburgring, and treating performance as a genuine engineering discipline rather than a trim sticker. For a brand that only started selling cars a decade ago, standing up a credible performance division, this quickly is faintly absurd in the best possible way. Level 7. The Magma Halo, and this is unlike anything else in the entire range. Genesis has confirmed it is entering top-tier endurance racing, building a hypercar called the GMR-001 to compete in the World Endurance Championship and the American IMSA Series from 2026, going wheel-to-wheel with Ferrari, Porsche, Toyota, and Cadillac at the absolute sharp end of motorsport. The program is called Genesis Magma Racing, and the car is a purpose-built prototype designed to win overall, not to make up the numbers at Le Mans. Feeding into that is the road car dream, the Genesis X Gran Racer Vision, Gran Turismo concept, a low, impossibly wide design study with a hybrid powertrain producing well over 1,000 horsepower, and the run of X concept cars, the X Speedium Coupe, the X Convertible, and the X Gran Coupe, that have quietly become some of the most admired design studies in the entire industry. This is the level where Genesis stops being a company that sells sensible luxury and becomes a company chasing greatness for its own sake. No Korean manufacturer has ever built a car to win Le Mans outright. Genesis has decided it is going to try. Whether the road-going halo that comes out of this ends up on your bedroom wall or in a collector's vault, it proves the same thing the LFA proved for Lexus. When this brand decides to build something with no compromises and no budget ceiling, it can go toe-to-toe with Italy and Germany. So where is the sweet spot? For most people, levels 2 and 3 are where Genesis delivers the most car for the money by a mile. The GV70 at level 2 is the best all-round buy in the range, and the G80 at level 3 is the smartest way to quietly embarrass a far more expensive German saloon on your own driveway. The G70 at level 1 remains the enthusiast's pick and the purest thing the brand makes. Above that, at levels 4, 5, 6, and 7, you are paying for prestige, technology, performance, and eventually pure ambition, which is completely fine as long as you understand that is what you are buying. Because here's the thing that makes Genesis genuinely different. Every other luxury brand asks you to pay for anxiety along with the badge, the repair bills, the reliability worries, the nagging sense that the prestige is fragile. Genesis built its entire ladder on the opposite idea: serious luxury, serious engineering, and none of the fear. That philosophy runs through every single level, from the 40,000-pound G70 all the way up to a hypercar built to win Le Mans. The only question left is how much of it you actually want. If this helped you make sense of where Genesis really sits, do me a favor and hit subscribe, because the data says most of you watching right now are not, and the next breakdown is one you will not want to miss. And I genuinely want to hear from you in the comments, so tell me 3 things. 1. Which level is the true sweet spot for you, and be honest? 2. Would you take a G80 over a BMW 5 Series if the price was exactly the same? And 3. Which brand should I break down into 7 levels next? Drop it below, and I will see you in the next one.